The future isn't being taken from us, but it is being engineered for us. See, Utopia isn't a show about conspiracy, it's a show about belief, a show about what happens when people in power believe that stability is more important than the truth, and that controlling the future is worth it at any cost, even to its own people. And as crazy as the plot seems, from engineered viruses to manufactured vaccines and pre designed crisis, the danger isn't the conspiracy itself, it's the philosophy behind it. And Huxley warned us about this. Plato justified this in his Republic. And Pessoa explains this psychologically in his Book of Disquiet. And modern politics ends up reflecting this right back at us like a mirror. This is the story of how Utopia exposes the myth making machine behind real power. Huxley, in the age of medicalized control. Aldous Huxley didn't believe the future would be controlled by force. He believed that it would be controlled by comfort, by medicine, and by the idea that every threat could be effectively engineered out of existence. In Brave New World, suffering is medicated away, tragedy is prevented, and stability becomes a scientific project. Utopia echoes this logic perfectly. An engineered virus, a manufactured vaccine, all justified in the name of balance and the greater good. This is the moment where science stops being about discovery and becomes governance. And we've seen clearly early versions of this in our world. As of recent, a Campbell's Soup Company executive was caught in a private recording rejecting the company's own bioengineered meat products, saying he didn't want to eat something that came from a 3D printer. It wasn't the outrage that mattered, it was the fear underneath it. The same fear Huxley warned about, the slow replacement of the natural world with the engineered one, designed by people who may not consume the very products that they expect the public to adopt. And this push doesn't stop at food. If you walk through certain parts of major cities like New York, you'll now see ads and promotional material for genetic design services, companies hinting at the future of personalized children, genome-based children, and the ability to optimize your offspring. Nucleus Genomics and other startups subtly encourage a mindset where biology becomes customizable, where life itself is shaped like a consumer product. It's not the full-scale eugenics, but it is a flirtation with the idea of engineered futures and the echo of the world Huxley imagined. And so this makes you wonder, what happens when the fear of imperfection and the desire for control and rhetoric of scientific progress merge all under one banner? Plato's Republic, the Noble Lie, and the Modern Guardian. Plato believed that society required a stabilizing story, a type of myth that keeps the public aligned and the city stable. And he called this the Noble Lie, something that the rulers themselves must believe, a myth that they must enforce. And Plato imagined this class called the Guardians, not tyrants, but protectors. And in simple terms, a guardian in Plato's Republic is a leader who claims that I alone know what must be done, and therefore you, the people, should trust me and follow and believe in that vision. I'm going to read an excerpt from Book 3 of Plato's Republic. Falsehood is really useless to the gods and only useful to men in the way of medicine. Unprofessional men must not meddle with it. It belongs of right to use falsehood to deceive either enemies or their own citizens for the good of the state, and no one else may meddle with this privilege. And so this is why the Noble Lie works. A guardian first believes the story, and so others can then believe it through him. Because the guardian class is supposed to represent the best interests of the people. And in Utopia, that this becomes literal because a crisis is engineered, a vaccine is curated, and harm is justified because the elites believe that the world cannot survive without them. And this logic shows up everywhere in modern society. And this is where Fernando Pessoa comes in, a philosopher and writer from Portugal. He's a psychological engine behind Plato's idea. And in the Book of Disquiet, right here, he writes, "Government of the world begins in us. It's those who create in themselves a real sincerity by artificial and automatic means. To be adept at deluding oneself is the first prerequisite for a statesman." Meaning that Power begins with the story a leader tells himself. Before the ruler lies to the public, he must lie first to himself. A leader becomes powerful not by believing his own performance, but by mistaking this type of emotion for destiny and this conviction for truth. And this explains why certain political figures rise in the modern world, if you pay attention. Leaders today don't rise by creating myths or uniting stories necessarily. They rise by embodying the myths, the fears, and the desires that already exist within the people. In a way, they kind of become our mirrors, a reflective surface for our collective emotion and unconscious. And in our time, I think the perfect example of this actually is Donald Trump. He's not necessarily an architect of a specific belief system. I know people would probably point to MAGA, but the Make America Great Again movement. But that's pretty much just American exceptionalism, uh, re-embodied, redefined. And so, really, he's an expression of what millions of people already felt with distrust in the systems that govern us. And his power came through performing that conviction so fully that it felt real, not only to his audience, but to himself. And he may have overplayed in this role. And in the Platonic sense, that's what makes someone a modern guardian, a leader whose power comes from embodying a myth, not by inventing one. And so, this noble lie, this myth, doesn't just govern the masses, the myth governs the leader himself. And once he believes it, everybody else can too. Myth does govern the leader, and the masses follow the leader. And so once he believes it, once the leader believes it, everyone else can too. Or it makes it easier for everybody else too. Huxley warned us about comfort being used as a means for control. Plato argued that stories are needed for society to survive. And Pessoa shows us how leaders can trap themselves within their own illusions. And so Utopia pulls all of these threads together in a single uncomfortable question. Who should have the authority to decide what the future looks like? Should it be the people reacting out of fear, the ordinary people? Should it be the elites who believe their intentions to be pure? Or should the future be something that no one tries to engineer at all? Because the danger isn't one conspiracy or one leader or one movement. It's how easily a society can accept a story about safety without looking deeper at who wrote it and why. The line between guiding and controlling has always been very thin, but once we stop questioning the narratives built around this protection, that's when the world of utopia stops being fiction and it starts being more like a preview for things to come.
Human being with a mind as brilliant as yours, you can do anything. And instead you choose to rain down misery and death.
No, you don't have it. How much evil do you have to do good?